Good morning and welcome once again to CrossFire. Nigeria is a country of more than 200 million people. And just concluded elections in Nigeria has thrown and shown light on the activities and so many goings on in the society. A lot of countries of the world are meeting to analyze the outcome of the 2015 polls, ranging from the presidential all the way to the State Assembly and the National Assembly, and especially with focus on the governorship elections that is still ongoing. 3 states of the Federation has been declared inconclusive, and that includes Taraba, Imo State, and Abia State. As we go on the show, we'll be throwing more light and we'll be having discussions on the outcome and everything that characterized the last elections on April the 11th, gubernatorial elections and the State House of Assembly. I'm not alone in the studio. I'll be doing this show as usual with Barrister Isioma Againe.
Good morning, Nigerians, and welcome to the show today. I hope you had a beautiful night rest since the elections, the tension for the elections have all doused down a bit.
All right, we're not alone in the studio. We definitely will be running the show today with this gentleman. He was there live during the presidential elections, and he was there yet on April 11th and even on the 12th, where the elections are being collated and announced in the INEC office here in Lagos and specifically in the Yaba area. Let's welcome on the show Mr. Victor Orororo.
Good morning, sir, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back here.
Welcome. We love having you here.
Mr. Victor, it's always good to enjoy, your simple way of analyzing, issues, and we'll be taking you from the angle of your, of your specific, specific, detailed, on the ground, view of everything that transpired at the INEC office during the elections, and every other eyewitness, what you saw and how you really want to relate with some of the things that are seen. It is no more news that in about 3 states, that is Taraba State, where we have the only female governorship candidate, and then we have 2 other states, and that includes Imo State and Abia State, where elections has been declared inconclusive. And I believe very much, in the statement of the chairman of INEC, saying that every little issue about the elections that had just been concluded, every individual, parties, and persons should take redress in the court of law. And so I believe that the tribunal will be wading into some of these issues and helping to put many of them aright. All right, let's go straight into the show. Mr. Victor, you were at the INEC office during the elections and even after the elections and all of that. How would you describe your eyewitness, account of the activities of INEC, especially as it has to do with receiving results and collating results up to the time that is being announced?
Well, thank you very much. From the look of things that we saw, INEC was very prepared to receive the results, both particularly the governorship and House of Assembly results. They were very prepared. And one could tell that not just that they were prepared, the process of taking in the results were very transparent and very painstaking. You had all stakeholders, everyone that should be there was there, and you were given free access to see what was happening, whether you're from the press, whether you're an observer, whether you're an election monitor, whether you're electoral officers, everyone, whether you're party agent, everyone had free access to see what was going on.
But then the time, because I noticed also that it took so much time, particularly the disparity in times. Don't you think the whole delay in collating and sending down to INEC, down for the whole coalition and announcement, don't you think that whole time disparity gave room for manipulation and rigging?
Well, I did say that everything was in the glare of everyone. If you consider some terrains, because usually what happened, we went on inspection with the resident electoral commissioner. What happens was that once the elections are held and the votes counted, the electoral officers call on there's a collation center around the voting area that each voting area would report to. You call the officer there who comes with police escorts, armed escorts, to take that result. So they take the result back to the center until all the polling units responsible to that center report all their results before they are taken from there to INEC. And even before they go to INEC, they do their own calculations and summing and all of that in the presence of security, in the presence of observers, in the presence of monitors, in the presence of party agents. And then everyone like that comes to INEC. And when they get to INEC, they go through that process all over again. So you would expect that you would have to go through some time. Of course, while we're at INEC, there were some instances where officers who are supposed to announce the results, there were some errors, some mistakes here and there.
Okay.
You would have to go back.
Errors.
Computing errors or sometimes
and
errors.
Nobody can really substantiate or verify that these errors were consciously made or they were actually true mistakes in
Actually,
itself.
the errors that were made, I think, were
Man-made.
simple, man-made, human errors. Some of the returning officers would say, for instance, 123,748 rather than 123,478. So it came to a point to say, look, call the numbers one after the
After the
1, 3,
2,
7,
5,
4,
4.
So
Like
there's no confusion. Confusion. So it was that.
So we know where to put the commas.
Yes.
And we know where to put
because even while watching on TV, we also noticed, I think one of the states, was it Ogun State or there, but when the results were being called, there was some kind of hitch like that.
I even observed that the returning officers during the presidential elections were not allowed to call 1,277,000. They would say 1, 5, 6, 4. Now, my concern is this. How come we have, even though many of such instances were not reported in Lagos, but across the nation we have a lot of issues bordering around, electoral, returning officers having doctored numbers and that the number counted in the polling station. We have a classical example in a place where Jimmy Agbaje voted, a ward in Apapa, where one of our reporters witnessed the counting and said it was a tie. But by the time it was collated, we discovered that the numbers that she told us about, was not the same. And so, eventually we heard that, there were issues raised about the numbers and all that. I wouldn't know what was done to rectify that before the final, collation was done that declared Ambode as the winner in Lagos. Now, do you think this process actually give room to loopholes for manipulations of figures, or they are just, avoidable mistakes like we already said?
But no human system is 100% error-free. No human system cannot be compromised. But what we have witnessed now with the card readers and all of that is that it's lowers the chances of manipulation. Yes, there were instances.
Multiple tone printing. The card reader hasn't been able to 100%
but that can
check.
be
because
detected.
you see the issue of snatching, ballot box snatching, like in Bauchi and some parts of the country.
Even in Lagos.
Yeah.
It won't affect anything.
You see the pictures, but now, sorry to have cut you short. I was thinking earlier on that, is it possible to have these ballot boxes laced with trackers? So if it's been moved from this particular place to another place, they can detect where it's going to. And if they're changing it, they're swapping it taking it back to bring in the falsified, is it possible to have this advanced technological devices.
That's a heavy.
It
Is it
is
possible?
possible. It is possible. But the thing is, even if you do that, the INEC rule is that once you take a ballot box and move it out of that place, that vote is voided.
Except there
But
are
then
no
some
records.
people still
Vote is-
manipulate, and because that's the whole essence of multiple thumb printing. You thumb print and then you bring back to look and see if that is it.
You know what
And they do
process?
that with
You know one
security
process
agents.
that I know.
So you
One
can't
process
check
that I
it.
know is that can really curb that is to ensure that the number of accredited voters, the number of accredited voters versus the number of people that voted should be used, because if you have a scenario in which a ballot box was even taken and probably it wasn't reported, maybe there were connivance, to ensure that happens, and then you have a case of multiple thumb printing and all of that and stuff to snuff into the ballot box. The concern will now be how many people were accredited to vote
some of the
in this
issues in
particular
Imo State also.
That's why when the returning officers are reporting the election figures, they give number of registered voters, numbers of accredited voters, number of those who actually voted before they start giving the results. So you can tell where there's overvoting, you can tell, and in such instances they void this. And then, of course, you know politicians and their shenanigans and their ways.
Yes,
There are places where politicians think that, well, if I know an area is your stronghold, you're likely to have a lot of votes there. I just send boys to go and take ballot boxes so that the vote will be voided from. So INEC as well made provisions for this by ensuring that there's some measure of tight security. I asked the REC a question about the riverine communities in Lagos. What feedback? And he talked about Ibejuleki. I think there's a particular place, Orimedu, where ballot boxes were snatched. And they hadn't gone too far before security people caught up with them. So I think by and large that INEC has built on the experiences over the years, and particularly the experience with the presidential election, because the places we went to, all we heard was the electoral officials came even before party agents came. They came on time, and except for one place where we had issues in Mushi, where we had issues with card readers.
With card reader.
And in Lagos, we had over 8,000 polling units.
Yes.
And they deployed over 12,000 card readers. So you had
Excess,
backups.
you have backups. Yeah. Now, let's look at, don't forget that this process that we've been trying to analyze eventually has resulted into the outcome that we have eventually. We have elections, especially for the governorship position, we have elections in 29 states. And we already have close to, aside from the states that have been declared inconclusive, we have the APC winning in 19 states, and we have the PDP winning in about 20 states, and then the PDP winning in only 7 states. I kept on, believing that the outcome of the presidential election contributed immensely to the outcome of what we experienced. How the APC has been able to take over more states than the PDP. Look at in 2011, the APC, the PDP has dropped from 29 states in all to 13. Which is a clear-cut indication that the ruling party has really lost some things. I don't want to say outright credibility in terms of governance, in terms of deliverables, in terms of activities, that is in the party. But what do you think in your own way? And I'm throwing this question to both of you. You can take your turn in succession. But most importantly is that what do you think really has taken place? Strictly, is it because APC won in the central? it trickled down to their ability to be able to reclaim, states that that the PDP has been governing in over time, or it is just that people are ready for the change they clamor for?
Okay, let me start. I'd like to start from 2011, between 2011 and now that you talked about. I want to categorically, this is what I think, that we must, yes, a lot of us thought that the outgoing president didn't do certain things right, but we must also accept that he did certain things right. I mean, a lot, you take a state like Edo, take a state like Ekiti, and some others, that the, ACN at that time went to court and said elections were rigged. And they went to the tribunals, and the tribunals agreed and said yes. And the governor there was overturning of the results in that place, and we had governors of the ACN coming in. That was what happened in Edo. That was what happened in Ekiti State. Now, I am saying that the president at least has allowed, that had happened because he allowed the process of law to go without interference. I mean, those were things that were rare in our climb.
And this actually played on the independence that has been given to INEC to be able to operate without...
That's right. So it started from there, that where the ACN would take states through the tribunal, which was something we never saw before then. And then when you coming to the issue of presidential elections coming first, a lot of people have argued that that was a design of the ruling party for its own good. And it just so happened that it worked against them. Because the thing is, once everybody wants to know who's at the center, and they want to latch in to that government, align with that one in the center. But because we had a rainbow coalition, ANPP, CPC, ACN, part of ABGA, part of PDP coming together to form APC, they were big enough to snatch power from them. They didn't envisage, the PDP didn't envisage that this rainbow coalition would snatch power. Otherwise, they probably would have started from the bottom, from governorship, states, House of Assembly. And that's the whole essence of the kind of democracy that we operate here. If you look at the American...
I agree with you, sir, but not 100% also. Because I know if one of the things I also played out, because I said last week that I foresaw that the APC were going to capture a lot of states, also because of the center. And why did the PDP lose at the center? Because of the quality, because people lost so much faith in the PDP as a political party and the personality of the individual who was there. So that also rubbed off, because now a lot of persons were saying also that we rejected PDP at the center because they did not, represent our interests well. They did not give us quality delivery of the dividends of democracy.
Is this the first time?
They also looked at Ekiti State. Also, they looked at some other states which were led by the PDP, and then they tried comparing it close side by side with APC-led states. And they said, okay, look at Lagos State, for example. I want my state that is, has been led by the PDP to be governed by the APC. Why? Because I want the kind of dividends of democracy we see in Lagos to also come to our states. Remember the caller we had who said, in Benue State that PDP had been ruling and nothing was happening. So they went out en masse to vote for the APC. So I feel this was a major
but the dividend
factor.
to expect from the APC as we speak, the only dividend to enjoy right now will be the promises that they have made to us. APC has never ruled Nigeria.
At the center.
At the center.
But then the personality of the person
also.
At the
don't forget you had a state like Akwa Ibom, even by the PDP.
And
the people of Akwa Ibom are not complaining.
When you look at a state like Akwa Ibom, and then you look at how much money they had, even the allocations they got, and then you compare it with a state like Lagos State, out of nothing was able to build a mini heaven.
Lagos. Don't forget the mega project, the mega city project.
The mega city project. Let's take our first break. We'll take our first break now, and then when we come back, this discussion continues. We'll be right back.